often identified as somebody who is interested in death and dying, and that I'm here to help people who are dying. And really, I'm not. I'm here because I want to be free. And I've just found that my path to freedom is service. But it's really much more about how awake can I be when I'm at the bedside of somebody who's dying? And feeling that if I'm doing that, that the best help and service will be coming out of me. I remember traveling, giving workshops, and somebody would give me an article or a magazine about death. And for a second, I'd be confused. Why are they giving this to me? And then I'd remember that people think, oh, he's the guy, he's Dr. Death, right? He's the guy that's working with death and dying. And one of my first teachers, Trungpa Rinpoche, said that until you come into intimate contact with death, your spiritual practice will have the quality of you being a dilettante. You can meditate till your knees are falling off and your butt has calluses on it. But until in your bones you know you're dying, practice is working on the surface. So I might never see you again. We have this time together, this hour, this half hour, this 2 hours, whatever it's going to turn out to be. And in that context, I really want to be here and love you and see what kind of relationship we can have. But when I'm with somebody who's might not have a lot of hours or breaths left in them, it intensifies that quality, that it hurts my heart to not be fully there for somebody who is approaching the end of their time on earth. Whereas often we're busy, here's somebody you know, you're going to see them again tomorrow, etc. And in Buddhism, one of the motivating truths is you're going to die, but you don't know when. What could be more intellectually obvious than that? Everybody knows that with their mind. But if you and I, and whoever is watching this video, really knew that we might not be around when the camera stops rolling, that this is it. It's like the camera is only capturing the present. It doesn't have much to do with RamDev's past or future. That we could be living that way, and living that way as an inspiration to drop into love, compassion, tantric understanding of the nature of reality, and even the non-dual nature of everything. That there's nobody filming, there's nobody being filmed, it's just filming, right? So that then dying is just another moment of that. And that's why I'm doing this. And there are all kinds of practices I teach people to help somebody die more consciously. The Ah breath, Tonglen, other things I'm sure you're familiar with. But the main thing I can do, or anybody can do, is how fully can I be here resting in wholeness, knowing that you might be suffering, knowing that you know that I know you're suffering, and yet I'm resting in the spaciousness and having this sense that I'll love you no matter how this unfolds, whether you're still afraid as death is approaching or you're not. And it's such an honor, partly to be with people at this remarkable and intense time in their lives. But it's an honor to have this gift of practice. So I've had the great gift of being with many of the greatest meditation masters of the late 20th century. I could give you a list. The Tibetan people, the Hindu people, the Christian people, the Sufi people. We'll skip all that. But somehow, being with somebody who's dying is at least as much darshan. And in fact, the most beautiful Americans I've ever met, with very few exceptions, are people who are almost dead. Which, it sounds kind of funny when you say it, but when somebody's approaching death, they don't care how much money they have. They don't care how big their nose is or those kinds of things. It's not about power. It's not about money. It's not about knowledge. It's about how fully can I be here now? How much love do I have? And most people who are approaching death haven't really forgiven themselves yet. Self-forgiveness is one of the main needs, maybe right now, before we get the prognosis, but at the same time, at that point of fully accepting our humanity. So that for me, this work is so precise, because my direct experience is that we're twofold human beings. I'm this man of a certain age, sitting in a certain place at a certain time. You're who you are, they're who they are. And at the same time, we're pure consciousness. We live in a society that is pretty much fixated on the former, our differences, the part of you and I that will die. Spiritual teachings, mystical teachings primarily, say that there's something that doesn't die. Maybe it's not a thing, something that doesn't change. Never born, never die, always here. And when you're with somebody who's dying, if you're doing just one or the other, I'm being with the human story, here's somebody with confusion and pain and a family that's deeply emotional, probably, about the whole thing. And on the other hand, it's perfection. It's consciousness unfolding. It's consciousness being its ever-present perfection. So when I was younger and lived in the Bay Area, a lot of holy people came. Yogis, lamas, swamis, all the whole cast of characters. And I had a test question I would ask these men or women. And the test question was, if you had a friend who was dying, and they hadn't meditated much, they maybe hadn't thought about God much, what would be the best thing that you could do for that person as they were approaching death? And all the ones that I really ended up trusting said pretty much the same thing. And the thing they said was, merge your mind with the one mind, and then merge your mind with the mind of the person, the friend, the person who's dying. We're not focusing on cancer or pain or emotional disturbance. We're not even focusing on the person. We're focusing on the healing of the illusion of separateness. Mayor Baba said, love is contagious. Those who haven't got it, catch it from those who do. You can read about love, you can talk about love, but if I'm not loving you right now, these are all some great words that people can put in their journals, but not much is happening. I knew Laura Huxley, Aldous Huxley's widow, and apparently Aldous Huxley took a massive dose of LSD as he was dying. And the last thing he said was, I have the answer. And then he died. He never told us what the question was or what the answer was, but he had the answer. And I've got a book or two of famous last words from people. I kind of go back more to this quote of Gandhi's, where during India's fight for independence, he was getting on a train and there were a bunch of reporters, and one of them said, Gandhiji, can you tell me something to bring back to my people, to give them some courage in this fight for independence? Can you give me some message? and he had a paper bag with something in it, and he scribbled something on the paper bag and gave it to the guy as the train was pulling away. And what he wrote down, "My life is my message."